but it's like that's what makes the world beautiful, that people are different. The fact that there is a Chris Bumstead who's the greatest in the world, the fact that there is a, you know, an Albert Einstein whose brain works in a certain way. Like that's it's great that we have these marvels of humanity that can sort of inspire other people. And like, you look at him, people say, "Oh, I want to look like him." But like most people know they're not going to look like him. With all the SARMs and peptides in the world, you're not going to look like him. But you have something to strive to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
My guest today is Ilan Hall. He is a badass chef, restaurateur, foodie, and all-around awesome guy. You can find him on Instagram at Ilan Hall. Ilan Hall, welcome back to the American Glutton Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Ethan. It's great to see you again.
Dude, it's good to see you too. Thank you for doing this. I'm excited to talk to you. Where do we go? Where do you and I go in this conversation? I don't know. We could go anywhere.
I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot since the last time we spoke on the pod. There's a lot of stuff that's gone on. Trying to think. I mean, we were in the throes right in the beginning of COVID when we first did this. So much has changed.
Yeah, I feel like the last time we talked, we were talking very heavily about restaurants and like the fact that a lot of restaurants were having to shut down and what the hardship on the restaurant industry was at that time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. I mean, we were supposed to open, I mean, you and I spoke when we saw each other in New York a few months ago, but we were supposed to open multiple locations of my ramen place, and like everything died. All these big things died, and New York was such a strange place to be because so many things closed and so many brand new businesses opened because there were all these rent opportunities. And then one of the things that was beautiful, I thought, during COVID were people like New York Nico. I don't know if you follow him, who were like supporting all these old businesses that had been around for a long time that were just dying because of COVID. And there was like this movement to save all these like sort of underrepresented New York institutions. And so there was like, I feel like during COVID, there was this reinvigoration of like people from New York that grew up with New York, that loved New York, supporting New York stuff.
Right. Because I mean, otherwise, look, like I go to New York a lot. I love New York. The thing about New York, honestly, and for me, unfortunately, any place on earth is associated primarily with food. Like Paris makes me think of baguettes and croissants and entrecote with their sauce, which you now have in New York, which is fucking weird in my opinion. And I haven't been there yet, but I can't imagine it's the same, but apparently it's the same. Anyway, like I have all these thoughts. New York is the restaurants for me. New York is the best place on earth to eat. And it can't just become Applebee's. If it's all fucking TGI Fridays and Applebee's, then New York is ruined.
I don't think it ever will be. I mean, it's interesting. I was cooking. I did an event last night that I did last year. It's this great event for Autism Speaks, big chef gala, 50 chefs. Each chef gets a table of 10. And it's one of those times, there's people from all over the country, but a majority of the people are from New York. And it was just great to see people I used to work with, I used to, come in contact with, and where they've gone and the things they've opened. And it really it sort of solidified that New York will never be that because its restaurant scene is so strong. It'll go through changes. It'll sort of, after COVID, there's a lot more effort, emphasis on comfort and things like that. But I still feel like it's still going to be an epicenter of cuisine forever.
Yeah,
there's too much culture. There's too many cultures mixing, and there's too much greatness for it not to be.
Yeah, and I know chefs will go to Europe and do like go stage or work in very famous kitchens, but New York is the place, right? Like if you open a restaurant in New York, or if you're working in New York, that's as good as it gets.
Yeah. Many would say. I want to talk more about fitness if that's okay.
Yeah, no, I do too. I just wanted to have that brief catch up. Fitness, health, food, all of it is interesting to me. Look at that. We got fucking fireworks. Do you see that? That's
Oh, whoa.
amazing.
How
That's
did that happen?
amazing. I don't know. That was awesome.
No, it's funny. It's funny. I know I want to talk about everything, but it's it's interesting how the last time we spoke, I was inspired to go get free weights, and I threw some guy on eBay. I went to some deep part of Queens and got a pair of dumbbells, and from that, I started building a home gym. And then through listening to your podcast, I started consistently working out with the support of two of my friends. One's my friend Jesse, who I've talked to you about a bunch of times, is a bodybuilder, um, and and then my friend Max, who had a health scare, and then just was like, "I'm going into health, working out 7 days a week, and just changing my diet, changing my lifestyle." And he started maybe about 6, 7 months before I did, and so the three of us have sort of one's inspired the other has inspired me, all supported by listening to your podcast. And then my last friend in the group, John, he has a gym at home too, and so he started lifting. So all four of us, like childhood friends, we're all in like this sort of push and pull, talking about like our push days and our pull days and our
Yeah.
leg days. So it's like it's become this like encouraging thing for all of us. It's really really amazing.
That's awesome. I have a question. Did you, prior to all of this, and I know I'm very familiar with Jesse. We should talk about him a little bit, but pause on that for a second and just
Yep.
say my experience coming into health and fitness, like in the beginning, I really believed like, and my goal was really primarily weight loss, but I believed for a long time, like, and I've had lots of crazy, dumb beliefs, like carbohydrates are what's making me fat. And if I just don't eat carbohydrates, I won't be fat. Turns out that's not the case. And then the next one, like with exercise, was like, I just need to do cardio. And so for a long time, I just was like, okay, if I do cardio, for X hours every day, I'm going to lose weight. And the problem with that eventually was like it catches up to me and like my body gets used to X hours of cardio. So you have to increase and increase and increase, which seems to be much easier to increase weights, volume,
Yeah.
a little bit of weight, an extra rep, an extra set, a couple extra reps, an extra set seems to be much easier and more time, less time consuming than going
Yeah.
like, well, if I'm adding 5 minutes to my cardio every week, at some point I have no time left.
Yeah. It's true. You can't progressively overload cardio unless that's your job.
Right. I mean, and then you just get to a point where your body is like, we got this. We're going to be able to do these hours of cardio every day, and you're not really going to get any more benefit. You can maintain the benefits you have, like you can keep
Yeah.
this cardio up, but it's not going to produce the kind of changes and results that are as dramatic as strength training. And strength training, I'm no longer I don't need a bigger bench press. Like I'm not chasing that. I don't need a bigger chest. I'm not chasing that. So I am in that kind of like I just want to maintain what I have.
Yeah.
And even that requires so much less time than like if I was like, I need to keep, I got on a rowing machine recently, Ilan, and I was very disappointed to see that I was unable to do these kind of efforts that I was able to do when I was doing 8 hours of cardio a day. And
Yeah.
that felt disappointing to me. But in the long run, it's like, what does it matter? Am I getting
Yeah.
the benefit from a half an hour on a rowing machine?
But are you going for athletic rowing? It's
Right.
like,
No, I'm not. I'm never
I
going to
mean,
I don't have balance. I'm not going to actually row.
I will say that because I've done 99% strength training. That's really what I'm spending my time doing, and it's changed my body composition. It's made me feel better. But in the absence of cardio, like the other day, I bolted to catch a train, and I was just, oh, you froze. Are you still? I was running to catch a train, and the train by me, I have to run up the stairs to get to it. So it's like you're sprinting, and then you've got this, and I caught the train, but it kills me, even though it's like a block and a half. And I go up there. I'm like, shit. I really have to start fucking doing a little bit of heart rate stuff. I mean, my heart rate goes when I work out, but like I need to do more.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a similar position where I like don't want to totally neglect cardio because there was like a year or two where I was like, I don't need to do any cardio at all.
Yeah,
And then, I'm also not, I don't live in New York though. You live in New York, you walk a lot more than I do. Like your average steps are probably way higher than mine. And I'm just like at my house in normal life, it's like my average day is very little movement. So I want to get to cardio just so like I don't come to New York and get so exhausted. Shit, you froze. I wonder if if I'm that's my internet or your internet. And I wonder if Chad is listening to this right now and gonna cut. Yo,
you know.
I
Oh,
sorry.
there you are. It's okay. Okay, can you hear me now? Everything cool?
Yes.
All right. So, funny enough about cardio, somebody that you introduced me to through your podcast is Greg Doucette,
Yeah.
who I actually, his voice is so shrill and crazy that, like, how some people go to sleep to murder podcasts. I like going to sleep listening to Greg Doucette videos. There's something calming about his insanity, but because I is in my ear all the time, I feel so guilty about not doing enough cardio because he's like all about bike racing, and I think we might be getting a Peloton. So like, I think I'm gonna start, incorporating a little bit of that into it, which
Nice.
will be
Yeah.
nice.
He's a great advocate for cardio. And
Yeah,
and I think there's some nonsense out there about like cardio will destroy your gains and it's like, well, look at him. He's a fucking animal and he does
yeah.
cardio all the time.
I mean, it's also I get a little bit not frustrated because he's actually pretty honest and a big proponent of this, but like how you know he doesn't you know people people sort of make you think, a lot of fitness influencers make you think that, oh, if you work hard for 2 years you're going to get in shape, you're going to look like this, and he's like, 99% of these people have amazing genetics baseline. It's like, I have amazing genetics, I will look good with very little effort. And so when somebody like that puts tons of effort into it, they look like they're carved from stone, like, my friend Jesse, he also the same thing. He's like, oh, all you have to do is this. I'm like, yeah, also be born with the amount of ghrelin that your brain produces so you don't overeat. You just want to eat the right amount of protein, and you're motivated to run and then jump and do muscle ups, and then your shoulders look like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's just, it's, you know, a lot of my friends who work out and who look good, they have never been fat or heavy or, anything like that. So I'm like, it's easy for you to say that it's just this, can do attitude, but like, when I was growing up, I had a big belly and very thin arms, and like, it's like it doesn't, titties, and like it's just,
Yeah.
it's
No,
not as easy.
I think the best the best thing that we should or the most sane and stable thing that any of us can compare ourselves to is to ourselves. And like,
Yes.
am I improving? Could I improve more? Maybe. Am I improving to the degree that I would like? Because there's going to be a point where like if you're putting a lot of effort into something and you're not improving, then eventually I would think that you're going to stop doing that thing, right? Um and so like this thing of like looking at somebody on, like Chris Bumstead to me is like the greatest bodybuilder ever to live. Some of those guys are impressive. The really monstrously big guys are impressive, but I actually think Chris Bumstead looks the best out of all of
Yeah.
those guys. And then you think like how many people are bodybuilding? There are dudes where you'd see them in the gym and you'd go, that's the most massive, um, best physique ever. But he's the best physique for the gym. He's not gonna get to the level of Chris Bumstead.
Yeah.
Chris Bumstead's a one of one
Yeah.
guy, and genetics play such a huge factor in that.
Yeah.
So if you start working out going, I need to look like that guy, it's like good fucking luck, dude.
Yeah. No, nobody's gonna get that. It's like saying like I practice basketball, I'm gonna play like Michael Jordan, you know? It's like
Right. No, there's Michael Jordan is as good as he is and still was like fiendishly practicing and
yeah.
improving himself, you know? Um I would be willing to bet that if Jordan put like 1% of the effort that he put in, he'd still be an incredible basketball
Yeah.
player.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's an interesting. You've seen pictures of Bumstead when he was like 18. He was like a giant.
He was an animal. Yeah, I mean the guy is just there are those things where I always think about like the Kurt Vonnegut short story Oberon. I can't remember the name, but it's basically like like if DEI went to the very, very extreme where like all people have to be literally equal, physically equal. So like
Mhm.
the dancers are getting their legs broken so that they can't dance better than the other dancers and stuff like that. And it's just like at some point we got to realize that like no matter work and effort and circumstances and all of that, I just don't think comparing ourselves to others is
Oh,
a healthy model. I'm and it's hard for me even to break out of that. By the way, Clementine um recently came to me and she was like, if I just drink raw milk and like do the exercises this girl on TikTok does, I'll get this girl's butt. And I'm like, no, you won't. I'm so sorry, but that's not in the cards for you. Unless it is, and then it won't be simply by drinking raw milk and doing those exercises. There's
because you're predisposed to being able to do that by drinking the raw milk and doing this exercise.
right, exactly. It's
No, but it's
crazy.
like that's what makes the world beautiful, that people are different. The fact that there is a Chris Bumstead who's the greatest in the world, the fact that there is you know, an Albert Einstein whose brain works in a certain way. Like it's great that we have these marvels of humanity that can sort of inspire other people. And like, you look at him, people say, "Oh, I want to look like him." But like most people know they're not going to look like him. With all the SARMs and peptides in the world, you're not going to look like him. But you have something to strive to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I know I no, yes, I don't want to knock people being inspired by other people. I think
Yeah,
that's cool. If a kid looks at Chris Bumstead and goes like, "Oh, fuck, I want to head in that direction and see what I can do for myself." Using this guy as a role model. I think that's great. Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, who still killed himself in practice, in order to get like the 0.1% edge that he could get out of that every week.
yeah.
That's inspiring. You're that good and you're still that motivated to try to improve. That's fucking awesome. What are your goals?
That's crazy. Actually, it's a funny question. It's something I've been working on right now. Right. I mean, goal wise, professionally right now, I'm toying with the idea of another restaurant. I don't have a plan. I don't have a location. I think if I do it, I want to do it upstate because we have a small place up there, something seasonal. But I have this like little voice in the back of my head. I've been doing a lot of events, a lot of traveling, a lot of sort of cooking in different places, and we still have Ramen Hood. We're trying to expand it, but in terms of a fine dining restaurant, it's like it's in there. I have ideas, I have thoughts, and I don't know. I've got. I mean, just for shits and giggles, I only have one life. I'd like to try and go for a Michelin star one day. It just maybe. Who knows? I'm not sure.
Is I remember the last time we talked about this specifically, you were super vegetable forward. Like vegetables were super interesting to you. Is that
Yeah.
still the case?
Um, not. I mean, ramen is still completely plant based. If I open up a restaurant, I would want to leave no stone unturned. So I would just be completely open to everything. I don't. I'd have to be inspired by where it was, by what it looked like. I have. It's weird because I say I don't have a location. We have a place upstate, a small place upstate that we got in the middle of COVID, just so we could get out. And on the drive there, there's this place that used to be a cafe, and the building is completely gone, but it's on this cliffside overlooking the Delaware River, and it's like one of those places. Like I have this full idea of what I want to do. That would take a ton of money, but I have this like dream of having this glass front restaurant where it just overlooks. It's like 200 feet in the air, overlooking this like beautiful river. In the winter, it's beautiful, and in the summer, it's beautiful. All around the year, it'd be beautiful, and just something that would be maybe simple during the day, like a cafe that everybody can go to during the day, and then I have like special dinners at night,
That
or I can
sounds
just
amazing.
really work on something super crafty, not too frou but just like beautiful and thoughtful, inspired by I always loved these restaurants that were in the middle of nowhere on cliff sides, and you go like El Bulli. I mean, that's an extreme example, but El Bulli was on this beautiful cliffside overlooking the Mediterranean, up on the coast of Brava, and it's just like you drive there and like, okay, of course you're making the most interesting food in the world because you're in this insane location where you can get the gooseneck barnacles right down there from the sea, and like it's just things like that I get excited about. I just gotta, I gotta figure out, I gotta make a plan, and I have to sort of follow
I
through.
I remember hearing about that restaurant from you, and then the few, I think we were probably only in Spain a handful of times from when I was aware of it to when it closed.
Yeah,
Um, and it was impossible. And I mean, like with 6 months' notice, it was impossible to get a
impossible.
reservation there. And
Yeah.
you didn't you just show up and like
Well,
beg your way in?
I could. Well, they didn't let me in. I was there with. It was right after Top Chef, and I was there on a family vacation with my sister and my parents, and I tried to get a reservation through every avenue, every person that I knew, everybody. Not going to happen. And so we were going for a drive. I'm like, let's just drive by it. Let's just check that. So we did the whole trek. I mean, you go on these twisty roads, sort of off and in, and it's a schlep to get there. And we finally find it, and I see some like prep cooks or something just smoking cigarettes right outside. And I just sort of walk up to them like, where's the main office? And so I literally walk on onto the property, and I see a guy who I think is taking reservations, and I'm sort of standing outside. I like completely trespass, not during business hours, and I just sort of looked at him like, hey, I know this is a long shot, and my parents and sister were sitting in the car, and I told them, I'm like, if I could get a table reservation, if I can do something, and it's only for me, I'm like, I'll make my way back. I'll see you guys in Barcelona. And I was pleading with the guy for about 25 minutes, and the guy was like, "There's nothing I can do." I'm like, "Dude, I could sit in the hallway in the back. Just I'll pay full menu price. Just hit me off with one as they're coming to the table."
Right.
And he was like, "That's not how it works." Which I don't blame him. I get it, but I had to shoot my shot.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Those are the ones I'm trying to think of any other place. That was the one that kind of got away.
Yeah,
It's I don't know. I still to this day can't rack my brain for how you get like there's a place in New York right now which like prime rib is not even my favorite food, but every time I know I'm going to New York, I see if I can get a reservation at I think it's called Four Charles Prime Rib or something
oh
like
yeah,
that.
so hard to get a reservation.
So hard. It's like
So hard.
annoyingly hard where you just go like, okay, I'm not standing online for prime rib, but you can't even do
Yeah,
that. You just
yeah. It's very good though. I've been there. I've been
really
there twice.
Is
Yeah,
it
no, so
worth
my
it?
friend, my neighbor, used to be friends with one of the managers, so we went there for 2 birthdays. It's great. Um, I mean, it's not hard to get amazing steak in New York though. It's like
Right.
there's certain places that do it well, and when you go there, it's like it's a combination of that and the room and the service. It's not just the beef. I mean, I was serving really good beef last night at this event that I did, but
Yes, you can find there's
it's about being
lots
there.
of good steaks. Yeah. I strangely in Florida there are lots of great steak restaurants near us, and I've been to all of them, and then found this one little Italian place called and by the way, it's not little, it's a huge Italian place which looks like, you know, like maybe a slightly more upscale Maggiano's.
Okay.
Do you know that restaurant?
Yeah, of
And
course.
but they do a like a dry aged steak, and I ate that and I was like, okay, this is my steak. This is where I can come once a week to get a steak and broccoli. And I go there and that's all I get. And I like don't want to eat anywhere else.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, you find that's the thing is like people ask me from out of town, oh, where should I eat? Where should I go? I barely go to restaurants. I have my few that I love that if I have an opportunity to go out, I'll go, unless extenuating circumstances. But I rarely go to new places, not because I'm against it, but just on the once in a while chance that I have a day off or a night off where I'm not, dealing with Theo or, doing something family oriented. I go to the places that I love. I go to Casamono. I go to Wild Air. I go to like my spots. I mean, I went with my buddy Mike a few months ago. We had a night where we were together and like we didn't. His kids were doing something. Theo was like we had a free night, and we did a few restaurant hops. And we started with one of my friends' restaurants that was the best, and then we went to a few others, and it got progressively not bad, but just less exciting, less good. I'm like, I just want to go to my places.
Right. Let me
You
ask
know?
you this though. Is it like, I find that it's the opposite with food, like with wine. And when I drank, I didn't have access to like really fine wines. But as I've been sober and watched people drink, I've been to wine tasting where you do the wine tasting of like the really good stuff up front, and then towards the end it gets cheaper and cheaper because you're drunk and it doesn't matter anymore. But with food, like I would start with the really good stuff because by the time you're like deep into it and you're full, it's no longer like gonna have the zeal, like lobster for me. If I get a gigantic lobster tail and I'm dipping every piece in butter, the first few bites are way better than the last few bites.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, if everything you eat is awesome, that's also not bad.
Right. True.
I mean,
Yes.
last night we were because there were 50 chefs. I mean, amazing people, really great people, and so we had dry aged strip steaks from Palafrida. They donated them. We had caviar donated from Regalis. We had just really luxe ingredients. So next door to me, this guy's doing caviar toast, and over there they're cooking duck, and like so we're just taking bites, and everything was delicious. So it's just like I'm not mad. And then later on, I had like a few scoops of caviar left, and then like, eating more caviar. So it's like you don't really, I feel like
Yeah.
it's okay if you're eating the best all the way through.
Totally. Nah,
I mean,
totally.
it depends what you're eating for. Something
Yeah.
like that. I mean, I'm trying to rein it in a bit, and I go through my sort of ups and downs. I've had diet stuff for a long time, and it's been hard in restaurants, sort of managing that because you feel like it's your obligation to eat things. But then the hardest working chefs that I've known, my cousin being one of them from years and years ago, he's one of the skinniest people I know because he eats little bites and then doesn't have full meals. And I always thought that would happen to me, but it's never really the case because I would always stand by Expo Station at the Gorbals when I had it in LA, and that's where the bowl of fries would be. So we'd do fries, and then there would always be 3 or 4 extra fries, and I would always eat them. So
Right.
there was one year that I think I gained like 25 pounds literally just from eating extra fries. One
Just
single ingredient.
those fries every day.
They were so good though. Um,
What
the
what
vis-
are your nutrition and exercise goals?
um, nutrition. Well, exercise. I'm really just trying to. My goal is to go 7 days a week, but I usually go six, sometimes five if I've got a lot going on, but six is really my goal. And because we have a full I'm a full rack upstate with dumbbells. I mean, it's limited, but it's enough to get a solid chest day. It's enough. It's got pull up bars, dips. So I really try and religiously do 6 days a week. Push pull legs, push pull shoulders and arm fill in stuff. So I'm really trying. I was doing like a bro split for a while because I was following Jesse, and then I'm like, Jesse's been doing it for 27 years every single day. I'm like, I can't, like he's like, oh, you don't need to work everything out multiple days a week. And then I start watching Mike Israetel, and he's like, no, scientifically, you really have to do things. So I'm like, actually, I'll be honest. The past 2 months, I changed up to be a lot more frequency, and I've seen strength. I mean, I don't know physically if I've seen it so much, but I've seen strength gains. Like I was at a plateau for about a year, and then
Yeah.
I just in the last 2 months things have changed, which is great. But nutrition's always been my issue because I'm an extremist. So if I want to lose weight, I'll go into a really extreme diet, and I've done it for like when we had my show. 2 months before, I'd want to drop a bunch of weight, and I would do something extreme, and I would lose a ton of weight, and my face would sink in, and I would. But I really want to try and meal prep just for consistency because I've never done it. And it's to meal prep. I can meal prep a week's worth of food in 20 minutes because I'm a chef. Doing like quantity of food is quite easy, and cooking it exactly is great. I mean, I was doing Jesse's meal prep like a few days before his show in Pittsburgh, and it's funny because it was all steak, and I like cooked it all sous vide, which he just throws everything in an air fryer but like I'm not adding any fat, I'm just seasoning it, and I cook it all sous vide. He goes, "This is so tender, I can't believe it tastes so much better." I'm like, "It's really easy." So
Right.
there's tricks that you can do to make it not taste like shit, and so it's just about being bored with it. But I feel like I need to commit myself to a period of time. I'd like to try about 3 months where I'm like, maybe one day I don't go on the plan, but like I want to do a solid same thing with how much I'm trying to exercise 6 days a week where I'm just like, here are my 4 or 5 meals. Like this is it. Just because I've never honed it. I've never tracked calories. It's just
Right.
like I'm eating like shit, or I'm you know on a cleanse, or the cabbage soup diet, or you know the week and a half keto where you lose weight for a week and a half, and then you're like, why isn't it still losing weight?
Yeah,
um,
I think like I don't track calories anymore, and I've been maintaining my weight for a while. But I do know for me the parameters get really really strict when I'm eating off my plan, basically, and that just means anytime I'm traveling or going to a restaurant, which is super rare. I actually travel quite a bit, but I get very strict when I travel, and then if people want to go out to dinner, it that's when my I go like, okay, I can have a bite of pasta, I can have a bite of X, but I cannot eat to like satisfy any kind of emotional urge. I can't eat out of anxiety, um but I but having said that, I do think that tracking calories can be interesting because you can get a real sense of like where you're getting the most bang for your buck. Like chicken, boneless skinless chicken breast, you can get a lot of that for, especially if you have like protein requirements. When you get into like chicken thighs, the protein is less, the fat is higher. So calorically, it's so much more dense. And in order to get your protein requirements, you're having to ingest a lot more fat. And like it gets
yeah,
slightly complicated there. I just think it's interesting to know all of that. And
yeah,
that's the only way would ever advocate somebody count calories is just so that they're aware of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to sort of get a sense and understanding because I think I have a good eye, realistically, I have a good eye of like how much things weigh. I used to work at a fish market in high school. So, like, understanding how much 8 ounces of something is and how you get it. Once you sort of get into a rhythm of it, then you can sort of apply it. That's really my goal is to really train myself to understand, be like, okay, this is 4 ounces of rice. This is 6 ounces of chicken. This is, and just sort of get into the rhythm and then be like, oh, I got it now. So that
Yeah.
I can 80/20 it, where 80% of it I'm eating like that because 95% of the time I'm eating at home. I rarely do takeout. I rarely go to restaurants, and if it is, I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm also not strict yet, and we'll see how my progress goes once I'm actually doing it and how I feel then, because I may be like, this is the best thing ever. I'm not going to deviate. But as it stands right now, if I do 80% of my diet like that, which I'm already in control of 80%, 90% of what I eat at home because I'm cooking almost everything for our house. So I feel like it'll get me into a good habit of really sort of understanding and then having a bit more of a free hand and then seeing how that affects me because I've just literally never counted calories.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it can be super tedious. Like and
yeah,
I started doing that before I think I was aware of apps that kind of helped you out, like where you typed it in and it did it. And I would sit there doing math, and I was also trying to track calories and macronutrients. And so the math was just crazy, and I would like write everything out and get my figures and then like double check my work and get a different figure and wonder like where did this fall apart. I wasn't great in math at school. Also didn't graduate high school, so like I really am not great with math. And it just was a lot of math. But now there are apps, you can get like
yeah,
you just type in your thing and it keeps track of everything for you.
yeah. I know I don't use the apps as I should.
I mean, no, I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying if and when you do start tracking, those
Yeah,
are helpful. Yeah.
yeah. No, I know it's all these tools. It's just you're a creature of your own bad habits, and so I'm just like, well, something that's new. Oh, it'll be fine.
Right.
Meanwhile, I've asked ChatGPT to write me a meal plan like 20 times.
Does it?
It could do anything. Yeah. If you, I
That's
mean, you could
fascinating.
literally put in parameters. I'm not. I don't have a political opinion one way or the other about AI, but it's pretty remarkable how you could just be like, okay, I want to do this. I've also asked it for workout stuff, and I mean, it's kind of basically what I do. Um, but it's just like it'll tell you exactly. You can ask it in detail to like be like, okay, how many at what hour a day should I do X, Y, and Z, and like what you can just the more information you give it, the better of a readout it will be. I mean,
I
I think it might destroy some of these fitness apps because it's just like you can
yeah.
just ask.
I in fairness, when the first iteration of Chat GPT came out, maybe a year ago or something like that, or last year. I don't know when it was, but it's not so long ago. And I know it's had a reboot since then. I don't know the numbers. Maybe it was two or three, and now it's four or five or something like that. I went into it and asked it and was like, what can I ask it that I am absolutely sure I know the answer to? So I asked it about myself, and it was dead wrong
Yeah,
about certain aspects about me. And then I just was like, okay, I'm not fucking with you. I know you're wrong about this because I know these things about myself. And I even challenged ChatGPT on them, and it was like, well, basically it said, well, I don't have all the data necessary to answer the question. Well, you just did answer the question in a way that wasn't like, here's here's a hypothetical possibility about this guy. You
yeah,
said X, Y, and Z about me that is fundamentally not true. So I am weary of ChatGPT because I do know from firsthand use that it's fallible.
yeah. I think it's one of those things where if there's if there's a lot of data, if say there's 100 million articles written on the best things to eat, best times to eat, it will it will calculate that and make some sort of determination. When it talks about, I feel like there isn't enough specific information about people, because I've
Yeah,
asked it questions about me, I've asked it questions about other people, and it'll try to make its best thing, but also the new version. Every time they do it,
it's
they make
better.
it more and better and quicker. But I don't know. It's definitely interesting. I've used it to get ideas for logo design and stuff like that. We were working on a we did a food truck festival in Saudi Arabia in December, and we were sort of working on pitches and ideas for other things for the next festival to see if there were other concepts, because there were people that came from Dubai that we made friends with that are doing multiple concepts, and they're trying to push them in the region to see what sort of sticks. And so I was like, coming up with different food truck ideas. I'm like, make me a design of it in the street, make it in downtown Riyadh, make it in this, and so it just sort of using it to give you inspiration for stuff is interesting, because its inspiration is just from data, but it can sort of trigger something in you to be like, oh, I didn't think about this, or it putting this here, or sometimes with design and efficiency, like for designing a kitchen, you sort of do it by feeling an eye and experience, but sometimes there could be a reason why, oh no, this should be here, angled at this level, because most of your cooks are 5'11" and over.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know, it's interesting to me.
Yeah, I'm not anti it. I think that I'm super pro technology. We're just going to get better. Life is just going
Yeah.
to get easier. My question is, what is street food in Riyadh like?
Well, they do a lot of charcoal chicken, which
Oh,
is great. So there are tons of places, like their two fast foods are like shawarma, and I mean the ones that we had, and meat on rice. Not like it is in many countries, but they sort of, it's charcoal chicken or roasted chicken. The charcoal chicken's always better. They sort of splay it out flat. They keep the bones in, but they spatchcock it, and they cook it over charcoal. And they just you sit. They put a layer of plastic, and they give you this platter with an ungodly amount of rice. I mean, for this giant thing, it was like $9 for like rice for 20 people and like chicken for two people. Um, and then you eat it all with your hands. It comes with like spicy pickles and sauces and stuff. And so that we ate a bunch of times. I was there with my business partner, and that was pretty incredible, really inexpensive. And it's because we were there in the winter, so it was warm, but it wasn't super hot. But everything's open very late, because in the summer it can get to be like 120 degrees during the day. So things are open till like 3, 4 in the morning.
oh wow.
One of the really cool places we went to, it's funny because when they do their shawarma, it's very simple. It's usually just sauce, meat, and wrapped up. There's not a lot of like vegetables. There's some things on the side, but it's not like sort of Israeli or like Syrian, Lebanese, Palestinian, where there's like lots of vegetables and lots of pickles. It's like just it's not super far, but it's a different region. It's in the middle of the desert. It's not near. So it's a different setup. But we went to this one cool place that's really popular, and this place, it was like 3:30 in the morning after we were done with service that night. We went with our friends from Dubai, and this place, the only thing I could equate it to was like Katz's Deli. You go in, and there's giant counters everywhere, and in each section you get different things. So there's chicken shawarma in one, chicken and then meat shawarma in one place. They do have a fried chicken area. They have like a thing with soup, like, and then they have a juice bar, but it's stark white. There's no alcohol, so people are drinking coffee at like two in the morning, because like that's their whatever they get their jump on, because there's no bars, but it's open super late, so everybody's hopped up on coffee. And you go around this place, and we got a big table, really like Katz's, and then you go to the different sections, and they give you all the food, fresh pita everywhere, this garlic sauce that's insane, just like super garlicky white sauce. And so that was really good. There's a big food truck culture there, and that's sort of, even though we're not a food truck, we sort of came in to do this festival as like a different sort of American thing. And there were food trucks from all around the country, all around the world, from from France, from Italy. There was a deep fried, talk about food that I shouldn't eat. But there was a deep fried pizza place from Naples
Wow.
where they're basically like calzones, but the dough is super light and they fill it with different things and they just deep fry the whole thing. And it's like this light, fluffy, like pizza donut. So
Dude, you've been like at the cutting edge of food since I've known you. And I don't know how you're not 400 pounds. I really don't. I think I would be 400 pounds forever if that's
because
what
of
I.
you, because you inspired me to go to the
No, bullshit. You've never been 400 pounds. 400 pounds?
but I've listen. I've struggled. Listen, everybody has their struggle. I've struggled with my weight since I was 14. You know, it's when I hit puberty, I put on a bunch of weight, and like then I went to actually oddly enough when I went to Italy when I was 17, that's when I lost a bunch of weight because I was like walking around. Food I was eating was fresher. I wasn't eating McDonald's and gouging, like just sort of gorging myself.
Well, there
So
I will say that there's always been, for as long as I've been dieting, Brandy has had this thing of like, no, we're going to Europe. You can eat bread over there. It's totally fine. And I think the truth is what you said. I'm walking more because I'd go to Europe and I'd eat whatever I wanted and I wouldn't gain weight. And then I'd come home and know like, well, now I can't eat whatever I want. I have to go back to, but like, you're over there and fast food is different. Fast food isn't just McDonald's, which McDonald's is, I think, like really trying to make stuff as calorically dense as possible,
of course,
like a sandwich that's 1600 calories. You would be hard pressed to find a sandwich that's 1600 calories in Europe. And their sandwich is bread and butter and ham and cheese, and it's still not 1600 calories. So
yeah,
they're not pumping it with excess fats and sugars, which you think like fucking butter and cheese. And, that's excess fat, certainly, but it's kind of unprocessed excess fat,
yeah.
I don't know how they're getting a sandwich to be
Well,
1600 calories here.
it's interesting because my dad has sort of the same theory that Brandy does, where he thinks that because the food, he also knows that it's because you're walking more and you're sort of exploring, but because the food is fresher and less processed, there's something, and I don't know scientifically if this is a thing, but it's easier for your body to process, digest it, and use it. That because the grains weren't shipped from China and sat in a warehouse and this, because everything is fresher, because everything's been put together in a smaller space. So like trout, you have fruit in Hawaii. It doesn't taste as good as fruit that has been shipped here from Hawaii. There's no way around it. Like there's something lost in the movement of things that are delicate. Now, nutritionally and biomechanically, I don't, it sounds like nonsense. Like,
Right.
why would a piece of bread have more available calories in one place than another? But I don't know. I don't know. I think also when you're on vacation, your stress levels are different. Your ability to expend energy is higher because you're not worried about work. You're not stressed. You're doing other. You're like, this is beautiful. I want to go there. This is great. You're just sort of. I think you're accidentally. I mean,
Yeah,
when we were in Saudi, I was walking all over the place and I lost a bunch of weight.
yeah, I really do. I think like if we got down to brass tacks, that's the truth. Like one is in Europe or anywhere, I'm moving so much more, and you can't, like eating to the point of excess, eating to the point of like the euphoric fullness that I used to like to eat to. There's no walking around after that. You're done. You're
No,
not going to a museum after that. So you're eating knowing like I'm having this quick bite and then I'm back at it. I'm back seeing
yeah,
sights. I'm moving. Um, so I'm eating less than I otherwise would be. In America, if I'm going to have pizza, it's like I'm going to have it delivered to my house and I'm going to sit and I'm going to consume pizza until I'm blue in the face
yeah,
versus pizza in Italy. In fairness, I prefer American pizza. I know that could be sacrilege, but I just do. and I'm going to get one slice of it and I'm going to eat it standing up or sitting
Yeah.
down for 2 minutes and then I'm back to moving.
And you're gonna eat more like of wherever you are. You're going to assimilate to where you are. And if their portions are smaller, if people aren't having 8 slices of something, you're just gonna, like you said, you're just gonna be like them. And you're there. Most people are not
Yeah.
very heavy.
I will say, like, I can't get the image of rice for 20 and chicken for two out of my head for whatever price. Did you say $9 or
It's a
$20 or something?
platter. It's a
Yeah,
platter. It's maybe like 24. No, it's bigger than 2 feet wide. It's like 30 inches, the size of a fucking TV. Rice and then a chicken on top of it. And so
that's
like
amazing.
everybody's throwing away a majority of the rice because nobody's eating all. I mean, they're eating some of the rice, but you can't eat that much rice.
Right.
So
I
goofy.
wonder where they're getting their rice too. Do they grow rice over there?
Um, they're probably getting it from North Africa. I mean, a lot of. I mean, they could honestly. It's Saudi Arabia. They could be getting it from China. I don't know. You can find out probably.
Yeah.
The
I'm
people
gonna
that
look
brought us
into
have
this.
the biggest like hospitality. It's the biggest hospitality company in the country. So I'm sure. We're gonna see them. I'm coming to California. We're cooking Coachella again. I'm doing actually a big outstanding in the field dinner where they do these dinners on farms, except they do it at Coachella and they bring chefs in. And that chef Josh Nealon from Australia, the fish guy, he's doing a dinner the
Oh
first weekend,
wow.
which I really want to try and check out. Um, but we're bringing some of the guys who organized Saudi to really sort of see how Coachella sort of puts together events and how crazy and how organized it is, because this was their first year doing it, and they sort of, they did a great job, but we were like, this, like we've done so many events that like there's ways that you can really sort of utilize the tools that they're using here.
And the dinners are not at the concert. The
Yes,
dinners,
they are.
how does that work?
So it's in one of the VIP areas. They've been doing it for years now, and we're friendly with Outstanding in the Field and with the people that organized, our friend Ian. But they do these. They in the Rose Garden. There's two big VIP areas in Coachella, one on sort of each far corner, and the one that's on the south is a little bit more low key and mellow. They've like finer dining, restaurant sort of quality food. And every night of the show, they have this one area that's set up with this beautiful table for 200 people. And you do family style meals. You cook on this giant grill. And so they bring in chefs. They brought in like Gagan from Bangkok. They brought in, I mean, every year they do different interesting people. And we sort of every year have not done it because we're busy doing our Ramen Hood booth, but we're just like, they asked, and this year we're like, sure, let's do it. So I'm bringing in some friends, and we're just doing a dinner for 200 people.
That's awesome. That sounds
Yeah,
fucking awesome.
yeah, it's gonna be cool.
I will say I haven't been to Coachella in a number of years. I went to Coachella the first time I think in 2001 and then watched it evolve, went year after year for a number of
Yeah,
years. And then the last two times I've gone to eat. Like I've gone because the food is exceptional.
yeah,
But I didn't have an experience like you're talking about where it was a sit down dinner.
yeah,
It was all these where you're kind of like waiting online or standing at a booth, like
yeah.
bar side almost.
Yeah, we have a booth. We have a booth that we've done. I mean, I think this is maybe it's either our eighth or ninth year that we've done Coachella. So we're old timers at it now. But that's why I feel like we're so dialed in that like we have the capacity to do another dinner, which is going to be really cool. But yeah, just know it's a super fancy. It's like a lot of artists come and a lot of like their crews come and stuff, and just fancy rich people come, and so it'll be fun, and it's like a joyous thing. Big barbecues, lots of we're gonna cook some cabbage. Nice.
That's awesome. And what what are your goals with exercise? Did we go over that? Because you
Yeah,
do
I
work
mean,
out a
I
lot. We
wanna
talk about
I
that a
wanna
lot.
yeah, I wanna build muscle. I wanna change my body composition because I've been skinnier than I am now, but I've never had changed my body composition to a point where I'm like, I have I have chest muscles, I have shoulders, I'd like to, I got into my 40s and I'm like, I gotta start. It's honestly, it's really for health, but I want to try and get some fucking abs. Let's see what it looks like. I've never done it. Like, let me, you know, before it's too late to try, let me try and do it, and then just keep it up. Because I mean, that was the thing when I first started. My first friend, after Jesse, my friend Max was like, he's like, I'm going every day, and he's religious. He feels crazy if he doesn't go to the gym now. He gets pissed at like Easter when his gym is closed. Like he's that kind of guy. And so he stayed super consistent, and now almost for 2 years now, I've been incredibly consistent. I mean, going. The only time that I didn't go for like over a week, I had surgery last summer, so it was like, you know, nasal stupid surgery, like a deviated septum surgery. Um, but yeah, so I'm staying consistent, and I really just want to build muscle and slowly lose some fat and try and look like a fucking action figure. For once in my life, not for a long time, maybe for a couple months, I'll be like, okay, cool, and just maintain.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. I will say weightlifting is important and it's certainly important while you do it, but abs, I think, are primarily how you eat.
Oh yeah,
That's like it's so fucked. Like you can build your biceps up and see your bicep no matter what. Fucking abs, the revelation of abs is like really when they say the abs are made in the kitchen, I think they're very correct.
yeah. That's why I have to meal prep. I want to see if I can really just sort of just do it. I have a friend who's a boxer, and he's like, it sucks. He goes, the only way to do it is to count it and
Yeah.
make sure that less is coming in than's going out, because there's no way around the math.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
know.
there's a couple of genetic freaks like what's the dude, Mitchell Hooper, the strongman guy, like the strongest man in the world, who is like he's something like 20 to 30% body fat, but still has abs somehow because
Yeah.
they're so fucking strong that it's like
Yeah.
they pop through. So I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
those guys are genetic freaks and we can't rely on
No.
that. Like, oh, I'm just going to eat 10,000 calories a day and lift everything all day long and become gigantic.
Oh, yeah, no. I've no crazy goals. I mean, I'd like to maybe, and it's funny because I again, with following you, there's this guy I follow, Eric Janicki. I don't know if you've seen him.
Mm-mm.
Big guy. Excuse me. He did stuff with Greg. Said he's done stuff with Mike Israel also, but he's like super anti heavyweights. Like for a while, me and my friends were like, okay, what can we bench? What can we bench? But he's like, doing bench presses to build your chest is like stupid. And he's like, barbells will always beat it. You know, like slow, not too heavy. But then at the same time, like I've been getting stronger, so it's like it kind of gives me a little bit of excitement. But it's like my whole thing, like you've been saying for years, like to prevent injury,
Yeah.
build,
Well,
not hurt
the
your joints, prevent getting hurt. Because I don't want to fucking pull. I already have like a little bit of a tweaky shoulder. Like I don't want to do anything to put me out.
the really interesting thing you just said is slow. And I was at a wedding recently and there were a lot of like I don't think they're teenagers, but like 22-year-old boys and they're fucking jacked, And we were out of the country, so all of the weights were in kilograms. And one of the kids walked in and saw that the dumbbells maxed out at 40. And he was like, 40? I can't even get a chest pump with 40. And he didn't know. I mean, they're kilograms. It's like 90-pound dumbbells. You can fucking anyone can have a great workout with
Yeah,
90. Like that's a lot of weight. Um, and I was like, and I didn't explain to him that they were. I was like, what do you mean you can't get a like? I could get a great chest workout with 40-pound dumbbells. And he was like, it's just cardio. It's just cardio. But what you said is interesting that this other guy said, if you just slow it down, if you just do Like if every rep takes 4 or 5 seconds, right? If you're
Yeah.
that slow, it doesn't matter. You could do it with 20-pound weights. That's
Yeah.
going to fatigue the shit out of your muscles.
Yeah.
So, like this idea that we have to lift heavy, um,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
what what's his name? Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. Phil Heath, he doesn't do heavyweights at all.
right.
He's a fucking, I mean, also genetic marvel, but his whole thing was like he said that his everything changed when he lowered his weights and slowed everything down.
Yeah.
You're just slow eccentric, 3 4 seconds, like just let it go slow and stretch, and that just does so much more than just trying to fucking
Yeah.
get it
You go into the gym and you see dudes ripping through stuff because like you don't have the capability to have a lot of time under
out.
a load of tension that's that big. So it becomes really fast. Like let me get 8 reps or something like this. And it's like how many reps could you get if you're doing 3 second eccentric on the down, right? And then
Yeah,
you could do a little bit faster up. I think that matters less. But man, when I slow down, lighter weights become devastating, devastating,
yeah,
and there's so much less likelihood of hurting yourself.
yeah. It's so much easier on your joints. It's not like slowing down makes it harder on your joints. It's literally
Yeah.
the same load. It's literally just, it's great. I'm like I'm such a big fan, a big
Yeah.
fan of like just taking it easy.
Yeah, I mean, and you can also tax your nervous system doing that, which is
Yeah.
like a great stimulus.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I'm into it, and I think like for me, just like that's it. I can't get injured. That's the number one priority. I do not want to get injured, and also for me, like my workout, that's like my therapy, my meditation, my that's the way that my day improves. Like your
Yep.
buddy who gets mad when the gym is closed on Easter. Fuck yeah. I want
Yeah.
Easter to be amazing. And for me to have the best day I can possibly have, I got to go to the gym.
Yeah. You go in the morning, right?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love going in the morning. It's the best.
Me too. And then, and the difference between what we're talking about and how I used to be like when I was under the idea that I just had to crush myself with cardio. There was also this idea like that I had to crush myself in a workout, that I had to really destroy myself. And there's a sweet spot for me where I get a muscle pump, I tax the muscles a little bit, but I get to this area where I actually have more energy and that's it. That's the end of the
Yeah.
workout for me, and then I leave and my day is fueled by that workout versus going so far beyond that that I need to go lay down and I can't
Yeah.
do anything for the rest of the day.
Yeah. No, there's definitely that spot where you want to feel it, and then when you get a good chest pump, you just like feel more upright the rest of the day. It's like or even back. It's just anything to sort of because then I mean, what a new thing for me is when I sit in the car, and it's just like new feelings that I've never had because for years, like I lats were something that I never saw, that I never felt. It's crazy how you can have a giant muscle group and not feel it in your body. But now when we're driving upstate, and I'll catch myself doing this. I'll sort of reposition so that I push my lats against the chair, and so it kind of makes me like feel a bit more hugged in the chair. It's like a
Yeah.
weird thing. I just started doing because I'm like, oh, you might have like a little pump from the day before. I'm just like oh, that there's something there now. There's an additional piece of the seat that's like
Yeah.
holding me together. Like
Yeah.
stupid.
No, I love it. I think that shit is all so fun.
Yeah,
Building muscles is fun. And I also think it's like if you go into a kitchen and there's like a whole drawer of tools that you're like not aware of. Like you open that drawer and you go, holy shit, I have all these tools. You know, that's like certain muscle groups that you can discover through working out. Like, um, I know that there's certain things I'll do where suddenly there's a part of my forearm that's flaring up that's like, and I'm like, what is that? Well, I wasn't even aware of that muscle. And now I'm using a muscle that I didn't know I had. And like
Yeah,
it makes me go like, oh, I want to make that muscle stronger. It's really cool.
yeah, yeah. The connection that you get from like using it, it's like, oh, and then you touch something, you're like, wow, that's
Yeah,
there's more of a bump there.
it's here for a reason.
Yeah,
And now I'm yeah, it's fucking awesome. Alon, thank you so much. This has been
of
fantastic. I
course.
love you. I can't wait to see
Love you
you.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ethan.